So thanks for jumping in
All good,
prior
man.
to anything really being published out there.
No worries, dude. All good with me, man. All good.
You know what's cool on that is like, it seems like anybody I meet through, and of course Mike knows a lot of people, you know, Mike Bledsoe,
Yeah,
but it's like whoever, it's easy to find people to connect with through Mike.
Yeah.
You know, it's like solid people just gravitate to him, and it's like, I don't know, just makes shit easier.
Oh,
you know?
dude, yeah, 100%.
And it seems like he vets people. He's got his own way of feeling people out.
100%. Yeah, he's very one of the most energetically in tune individuals I've ever met. Yeah, and he's always been. God, if you don't know him, he seems very cavalier about life. You know, very nonchalant, and I'll never forget one of my very first apprentice introduced me to podcasting with Barbell Shrugged. And I'm out there coaching a class, doing the thing, and you know, he's just glued to the screen in the office. I'm like, dude, all the education's out here. He's like, dude, you got to hear these guys. And, you know? And I was like, whatever, dude. So I sit down and watch the episode. I'm like, wow, these guys really know what the fuck they're talking about. And I remember like making this unexpressed goal to be on that show at some point in the future, like to have a solid enough reputation to be, because like I knew the ilk of the guests that they had on that show just from the strength and conditioning community, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna have to do something to get on the map in that regard. And I also found myself in this phase, you know, post Marine Corps and early in entrepreneurship, where you know, as you're building a business, you know, you say yes to everything. Like you leave no stone unturned. You know, you're naively optimistic about everything. You know, and I said yes to a lot of things, and one of those yeses was to be the head judge at a competition circuit called Rush Club with a buddy of mine, really good friend of mine now, AJ Richards. And that thing was gaining so much traction that it attracted Barbell Shrugged. And they came to interview a bunch of these competitors that weekend and stuff like that. And that's when I met Mike the first time.
AJ Richards, he's a power lifter, right?
No, he is, well, actually he's a homesteader now. But he had CrossFit Mesa out here and founded Rush Club. And it was a weight class based competition series for CrossFitters. So big guys go against big guys and do heavy shit. You know, your middleweights are doing a combination of high skill and high volume, and then your lightweights, your featherweights are doing just really crazy gymnastics and high volume calisthenics. Right? It was a really entertaining show. And then CrossFit Corporate came in and took a dump on it, and ended up getting it all shut down, and really killed the momentum that they had going. But over that time, I remember meeting Mike, and I hadn't listened to enough of Barbell Shrugged to know that he was in the Navy. So I'm looking at his sleeve, and I see the ropes and the anchors, and I'm like, do you serve? He's like, Navy. You know, so we hit off Navy, Marine Corps, and as we do. And he's like, dude, we're having this mastermind event out in California. I was like, oh, that's cool, you know. And at this point, you know, and you know what I'm talking about in the entrepreneurial journey, where you don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, and you're trying to figure out where your next drop of water is going to come from, right? And he's like, dude, all good. It's $5,000. If you can make it, great. If you can't, all good. And he walked away. And I was like, okay, dude. So quick, fast, in a hurry, I figured out how to make $5,000 and got myself in that room. And dude, that was a real game changer. And I've met people who also got that same invite to that same event years later, and they regret not going. You know, they talked themselves out of it. They said, not right now, I don't have it, you know, whatever. And dude, that has been one of the tales of the tape, and just my journey in life, let alone my journey in business, is it's not about your resources, it's about being resourceful. And it doesn't matter how much cash flow, what your revenue looks like. I really and truly believe that it's I know that is the case no matter what level you've evolved to. You know, if you've achieved opulence and you are cash flush and debt's not an issue and you are living your best life, it still comes down to how resourceful you are, not whether or not you have an abundance of resources. You know,
It seems like such a key separation. Resourceful is a mindset. Resources, it's like, what toys do I have?
Right. Yeah. You know, a mentor of mine, and you know, gave me this lesson that we now teach. Chris Kluver. He's like, all of us, to varying degrees, only have 3 things to offer: time, talent, and treasure. And you got to know which one you have in abundance to over leverage to accumulate the other 2. Right.
That seems like an awesome way to look at it. Yeah.
And that awareness has allowed me to achieve so much. You know, when I didn't have any cash in the bank, you know, I'm really over leveraging time and talent, you know, and over delivering the value in that regard to create balance in the bank account, you know. And then, you know, in business, you know, we talk about being capitalized and generating revenue and doing all those things. And then what are you doing? You're leveraging that revenue to buy back time, to acquire more talent for scale, you know. So really looking at it, and it's very, what's the word? It's a very esoteric concept. Like, there's not a lot of tangible metrics around your time and your talent. You know, money, revenue, treasure, whatever you want to call it, very, very tangible. But how you use it to leverage and create abundance across the board, you know, that ability is, to me, really dictates how resourceful you are. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if you're not opposed to it, and of course we'll send you the final edit of all this.
Yeah.
If you don't mind if we splice that in, because
Sure.
that was like some nuggets.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
gold
I thought we were
right
rolling,
there.
so
yeah, all right. Well, shit, maybe we will just start it that way, because I'll do a little, you know, the official intro later.
Sure.
But yeah, Mycal Anders here, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently when Marines get together, even if they've never met each other previous to that, it's like, oh, yeah, we can talk.
For sure.
So thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's an honor and a pleasure, man. Yeah.
Well, likewise. You know, you're established here and all that stuff. So sounds like you got some very exciting things in the pike.
Yeah, man. Really excited. You know, Next Level has really differentiated itself in that, you know, over the course of my career, I've been blessed with client longevity. And over time and building a relationship with these people, it becomes less and less and less about losing 40 pounds, you know, 4, 5, 6 pant sizes, getting off blood pressure medication, all that stuff. And the conversation evolves to what's really important. And if we've led ourselves to believe that if I fix my fitness, everything else gets better in my life, and we do all those things that I just mentioned, in a lot of cases, life didn't get any better, right? And what I mean by that is you're not leading any more effectively. The relationships, your toxic relationships are still lingering around. Your self-talk is still negative. You know, you still beat yourself up around all the shoulda, woulda, couldas of your past. You know, so what I've discovered and surmised, and you know, the way we approach this lifestyle integration puzzle is through the lens of fitness is just a symptom of a lot of other things that could and should be dealt with in order to show up in the world as your highest and best self. It's just a piece of the equation. So, and I knew that intuitively, like I felt that. And when I leaned into it with my clients, all of a sudden, everything that we did above and beyond showing up to the gym 3 to 5 times a week, hitting it hard, managing nutrition, getting enough water, getting enough sleep, all of that stuff. Everything, not only did that, all the friction associated with that become exponentially less, but their lives also got exponentially better. And I'm really happy we're having this conversation as Marines, because you'll really get this. What we celebrate in the Marines, or what we preach in the Marines, I don't even know if it's celebrated because it's actually necessary, is this mantra of mission, Marines, then me, when we talk about leadership, right? And in an acute combat environment, or mission to mission to mission, that 100% makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, we got shit to do. We can't do it without our Marines. And if that means I eat last, then so be it, right? When you flip that over into the first civilian division, the first Civ Div, right? That actually creates liability out of leadership, not an asset long term. Because what do we see? And in everything that you're doing in the holistic practice of an intentional adversity, of deliberate cold exposure, this. The problem they're trying to solve is, man, fuck, I'm doing everything I can, insert holistic modality here, to avoid burning out, right? Because for so long, that mantra that has served us so well in the Marines is also what they celebrate in the corporate sector, in the entrepreneur world, the hustle culture, right? Drive revenue above all else, even if it's at the expense of your own health, right? And then what happens? Like, you got $1 million in the bank and you don't know your kids. All of a sudden, life has passed you by, and you could say you did the thing, but did you also end up exactly where you wanted to be, right? So being able to manage all of that stuff and really tap into what's really important, and front loading that in your life so that you remain the priority, so that you're able to lead more effectively and show up better for those that you serve. And at the same time, the thing that is really important is preserved, and pot, kettle, like this is indicative of my own journey as well. So that getting our clients to realize how important that actually is, and creating that awareness around, holy shit, where do I actually fit in the grand scheme of my own life? And then reprioritizing the pieces of that puzzle so that they're able to actually live in alignment with who they actually want to be. And that's the game. That's how we build the fittest leaders here. Yeah.
Sounds great. Before, the only thing I'm concerned about with your mic is that if the foam's on the inside, okay, you're good now. Cool. Yeah, just in case it's like rubbing or whatever. Cool. It seems really interesting too. And of course, because, again, we've already talked about that Mike Bledsoe connected us. He just released a video talking about hustle culture and how this is going away, and more creative people, through the help of AI and all number of different things, that's going to move things forward. And I guess I'm going to piggyback this right there, is that you already nailed that if you only focus on, by the way, I appreciate that you just talk and I can just sit and listen. The less I talk, the better. But, if somebody only focuses on their fitness, or they only focus on money, it's like, these are only parts of the big picture. And it sounds like you're trying to breathe, connecting everything and balancing it all out.
It's really important, and it's less about balance, because I don't believe that's actually achievable, but it's really about harmony. Right? So and the way I describe harmony is being intentionally out of balance, right? I need to take a 5-day retreat by my lonesome, alone with my own thoughts, in order to gain the clarity to move something forward, right? That is being extremely out of balance for a short duration to bring everything, but that imbalance actually serves the bigger picture. You know what I mean? And to your point, when you're focused on You know, when you isolate your fitness over the long term at the expense of everything else, when you isolate, you know, the building of your business at the expense of everything else, you know, it's really easy to get lost in that. So the critical word in that definition of harmony being intentionally out of balance is the intentionality part, right? Because people are just like, well, I just know this is what needs to be done to get from A to B. Well, they don't ever plan for what happens after B, and they just stay in that mode, and that's a problem. Yeah.
You know, it's funny too, because that intentional out of balance seems like a very Marine Corps thing too. You know, officer candidate school, and then TBS or whatever. Isn't that like a 6-month long process where you just live like a grunt or whatever? And luckily enlisted didn't have to do that.
It's one of those things though that is unique to the Marine Corps in terms of how we develop officers. We're the only ones that do it. We're the only ones that have a school like it. There is no TBS equivalent in any of our sister services.
Interesting. Even the Army doesn't have anything quite like that, huh? Interesting.
And you know, what makes it unique is we understand at the most basic level, every Marine and rifleman, what goes into, and the basic school is not a misnomer. It is, you know, we're all learning. Not officer candidate school is really the screening process. Do you deserve and have you earned the right to be a Marine? Can you, at the most basic level, do you have the ability to lead? Do you have the temperament for leadership? And then you get to the basic school and you're learning the ins and outs of infantry tactics, and you're also getting exposure to all the other various MOSs, jobs and career fields throughout the Marine Corps over the course of that 6 months. So when we get to the fleet, we all speak the same language. You know, and you know, if you've been around the Air Force or the Army or the Navy, you know, the cats that aren't on the airfield or are dry docked or, you know, serving administrative functions and not going out in the field, like, it is totally different culture inside that service. But you put any two Marines, East Coast, West Coast, air, ground, doesn't matter, like, we're all on the same page. You know, I was an air traffic control officer, and I actually met a guy, Naval Academy grad, became a MARSOC Marine, who I supported with UAVs as we took Sangin in 2010. And he's now an executive at a Fortune 500 here in Scottsdale. And dude, we got together for beer, shook hands, created the devil dog connection, figured out who was where and when, and man, it was like we came through that whole process to right now together. And I didn't know him from Adam 5 minutes ago. You know, and I think that is very much indicative of the process of becoming a leader of Marines. Whether you're officer or enlisted, it is really what makes us different, is how we get there, because it is unique to us. You know,
unique. Yep.
Yeah.
See, folks, it's not just a gimmick that Marines are different, or once a Marine, always a Marine, or whatever. Like, it's genuinely, it's stamped into us. It's a strong part of the culture. You know, they always told us, like, every Marine's a leader, you know, from a very young age, and very little experience in the military, whether officer or enlisted, you are leading people. You're teaching people stuff on a daily basis, even if it's the most basic things, just so it's like, this is how we do it, and everybody's trying to bring each other up.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. You know, we celebrate these things, we take these things for granted while we're in the service. And then when we get out here, it's so profound. You know, like this concept of small unit leadership. You know, I only have conversations with 2 or 3 of my people on a regular basis, and they are turned loose to manage and see things to successful completion. And I don't feel the need to micromanage because they're empowered. You know, now on the flip side of that, you know, can I cuss on here?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay. So, you know, one of the things that I've had to, you know, part of my own growth journey and leadership coming from the wonderful land of knife hands and motherfucks. You can't lead that way out here either. I'll never forget.
It's a damn shame.
It's tough. It's tough. Because it's just, from the outside looking in, I can only imagine what it actually looks like. But it is just a very direct, hey, eyeball to eyeball, do you understand what I'm saying? Check, Raj, execute, right? Form of communication. And I will never forget, I've been in command briefs and listened to colonels, motherfuck this and motherfuck that. And I was giving a presentation in grad school and crushed it, nailed it. And I got to the Q&A. And in my second semester of grad school, I had launched the gym. So I'm in the game, and a lot of my peers in my cohort were, just lifelong students at that point. And they're asking me about my journey in business and what it's like to own a facility and do all that stuff. And this kid had led with, this assumption or some hearsay about running and opening a gym. And I was like, oh, that shit doesn't happen in real life. That's not how it actually goes. And because I said shit, I got downgraded from an A to a B.
Oh my God.
And I was like, really? And I get it. It's an academic environment, like 100% my bad. And at the same time, just like, I have heard like the who's who of combat operators where the stakes were really high. They use way more foul language than dropping an S-bomb once. Oh, God. So, I tried to explain and rationalize my way back to it. And he was like, sorry, dude, can't do it. I was like, okay. So there's just a different definition of professionalism that nobody told me about, out here in the real world, So it took me a long while to navigate that. And when I found one of the tools we added to the process was this Birkman assessment. And it really brought to my awareness how ineffective a communicator I was. In that what I desire, I have a tremendous desire for collaboration. Actually one of my rules for myself moving forward out of 2024 was I don't need to build anything by myself ever again. I've done that. I've checked that box. It was fun. I had a great time, and everything I do moving forward in creating impact and acquiring abundance will be a collaborative effort. And so I put that out there, and I'm playing back the tape, and I've got mentors and coaches and stuff like that, and I get to this Birkman, and like my mentor Scott taking me through this process. It's like, do you ever experience any friction around how you show up as a leader? I was like, it's funny that you say that, because as I've sent out anonymous 360 reviews to the team about how I can improve as a leader. For a long time, I would get this recurring note of how unapproachable I am. And I was like, energetically, I'm like, how's that even fucking possible? I have an open door policy. You can talk to me about anything. I say this stuff out loud. Blah, 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 blah. And like, well, here's why. And this is why I appreciate, this is why we lead. Before we talk tactics and strategy with clients, we have to get to awareness first, because there are things about you that you don't even know, And while I have a strong desire for collaboration, the way that I present, the way that I show up does not suggest that at all. And dude, I had to take a hard look in the mirror, because it was like the first time, because for the way I would resist that, letting the ego lead the way, it's like, why do I have to change? Why do I have to change the way that I talk so that I can get the desired response from you? Checking all the boxes of like, am I Am I being kind? Am I being fair? Am I being respectful? Yes, 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 yes. And still, I'm the unapproachable one? How's that even possible? And then all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, dude, that's not how you show up at all. You show up actually, you express in the exact opposite manner. So I'm like, oh. Wow. Okay. So now how do I manage that? What's within my control so that I can be a more effective communicator and get the desired outcome that I'm looking for? Because ultimately, when we're talking about, never mind what Webster says or what the next best communication guru has out there on the internet, when it comes down to it, effective communication is message intended is message received. Literally anything short of that, it makes you a shitty communicator. So, I had to do some soul searching, man, and really sit with self and recognize, like, okay, without becoming a lesser version of Mycal, how do I communicate this desire for collaboration and make it so, and present that desire in such a way that expectation ultimately gets met? And through that self-exploration and reflection, I came to, I not only need to say the words, I need to look at how I say it, right? So for example, I put you in charge of a task or an assignment. This is what, I need you to make this table, right? And I give you no further explanation. You go grab the toolbox, and God forbid you don't know you're not very handy. Okay, you're like, do I need the Allen wrench or the flathead screwdriver? It's like, figure it out and get back to me. Okay, something to that effect. And that language pattern, I didn't realize, and dude, this was a trend for a really long time. And now, like, all the things that I missed, all the things that didn't land, make so much more sense to me now. Whereas before they were just a mystery, and just left me frustrated and pissed off. And, so I moved through all this process, and I look at those instances and like take ownership of where I fucked up in communication. And where I landed was, same scenario, it's like, I trust you to figure it out. And dude, instead of that cavalier, I don't care, figure it out, like, well, what the message being received is, well, fuck, if you don't care, why should I? This is just some menial task that you don't want to do, right?
Right.
Versus, I know that you're capable. I trust you to figure it out, make that happen, right? And now it's a point of pride, like, oh shit, like you gave that to me. Okay, I'm gonna go rock that for you.
Sounds like a sense of ownership.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
But the language pattern, what I learned, these things that we have in all of us, we call it word codes. These word codes that I had were getting in my way. And it's like, man. Ooh, now the double-edged sword of that awareness, you can spend a lot of time in the rearview mirror trying to unfuck things that you can't change, or you can be present in the here and now and make that decision to be different and aware moving forward. And that's the more powerful practice, right? That's the one that serves you the best, because you can't change anything back there, leadership is a game of self-awareness. And if you are not in constant pursuit of higher levels of self-awareness, do not be surprised when you fail in leadership.
You mentioned something there, higher levels. Like that phrase sticks with me because your business is called Next Level Fitness Consultation, if I'm reading it correctly.
Performance consulting.
Performance consulting, right? Yeah. What's behind the name?
Oh man, so
obviously Marines are not good readers. That's why I'm like, like I know I saw it coming in.
So the inception of Next Level, when I was on active duty, I moonlighted as a high school football coach, and I coached 2 seasons at Gila Ridge High School. And Yuma is an under-recruited area, to put it lightly. I mean, it's where you stop for gas on the way to San Diego from Phoenix. But there's 5 4A high schools there. There's 5. A lot of people in Yuma.
Wow.
Yeah. Through the 2010s into the 2020s, it was one of the fastest growing communities in the nation.
Really?
Yeah.
And these people knew how hot it is there.
Yeah. A lot of agriculture, a lot of manufacturing, a lot of migrant workers coming back and forth from Mexico for the ag and for the manufacturing and stuff like that. And not to mention there's El Centro Naval Base and Yuma Proving Grounds and Marine Corps Air Station Yuma. So a lot of military personnel, and there's actually a lot more going on down there than you'd ever think, just passing through on the 8. And so when I decided I was going to get out of the Marine Corps, I started working with these kids to get them looking better on paper, beyond their game film. Like coaches are gonna want to know if you pass the eye test. So we got to get your vertical up, bench press, squat. And because of my background in strength and conditioning, my undergrad in health and human performance, I was a training and standardization officer for every unit I served with. I led PT all the way through OCS, all those things. I was uniquely positioned to not only coach football, which I played in college, but also build strength and conditioning programs as well. So in the off season, between bodybuilding competitions and stuff like that, I was also a strength coach. So, and through those efforts, I helped a couple of kids who otherwise wouldn't have end up going and playing in college, which is super cool. And that's where Next Level came from. So fast forward to leaving the Marines, Mycal's timeline was get up here, establish a reputation and a foundation in training at someone else's facility, finish this master's degree, and then open the gym. And I left the Marines in February. I couldn't start school until the following fall. And over that time, I just went back to personal training. One of my clients asked me after a session one day and said, have you ever thought about opening your own place? And I was like, whoa, let me tell you about my plan. Right? And I spelled it out for them. And they were like, well, how much do you think that would cost? I gave them a number. And they're like, well, let's go sit down and have coffee. I was like, okay. And I waffled. Because it wasn't on my timeline. Where I'm ahead of schedule. You know what I mean? And I am a recovering credential chaser. I really want to finish this fucking master's degree, So I have another client who would become an amazing friend and mentor who I met with that very next morning. And I was like, hey, I got this opportunity in front of me, but dude, I'm in school and that's really important to me. I'm getting my shit together, And he's like, dude, and he's an entrepreneur. Built an amazing business multiple times over with his wife, has 2 beautiful kids who are crazy successful. He did it right in my eyes, right? So this is good counsel, whatever he's about to say. He's like, when was the last time somebody offered to make your dream come true? Never. He's like, when do you think it's going to happen again? He's like, man, figure it out. And the one that isn't important will take care of itself. Well, I ended up finishing that master's degree, and 3 years later, we were the #1 CrossFit gym in America.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, what I've come to and what I really help our clients figure out for themselves is what's in alignment, because it doesn't matter whether you feel prepared or ready, or if you have all of your ducks in a row, if it's too early or too late. Like, none of that really matters. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really play a factor when you're answering the question of alignment. Because leaving the Marine Corps, I wanted a training facility. I wanted a place where I've been doing this for almost 25 years. And the average career in training and strength and conditioning is 7 months.
7 months.
Then they're going to sell cars, insurance, going back to school, doing something else. And I wanted to build a place where I could play a role in changing that. Mm-hmm. And teaching, giving back, paying forward the mentorship that I got that allowed me, and they empowered me to stay in this game for over 2 decades, right? And the only thing I could come to in trying to answer that question, like, what's different? You know, like, I'm a hard worker. I'm not particularly smart, I'm far from a dumbass, but at the same time, just like, I don't, when it came to sports and stuff like that, like, I didn't play in the NFL, I was just happy to play in college. Mm-hmm. When I got to the Air Force Academy in East Texas State, and I saw what real talent looks like, what big looks like, what fast really is, what strong, what no shit football IQ looked like. I didn't have none of that. Uh-huh. I had to bust my ass to come to sniff it, right? So, but I always had good mentors, and I was coachable. Mm-hmm. I'm like, well, fuck, okay. Those are qualities that, like, a lot of people probably have, but the mentorship piece is missing. Mm-hmm. There's nobody taking them under their wing and being like, hey, just step in my footprints, mm-hmm. and you'll be okay. I've just been really lucky to get that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think, whether it's, in our either personal or professional lives, if you're not actively seeking it, the only way that happens for you is serendipity. Mm-hmm. You just got fucking lucky. Right. But we can all look for it. Right? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to be that lighthouse for people. And mission accomplished. Mm-hmm. So what I didn't know that I was doing in answering that question, when was the last time somebody offered to make your dream come true? When do you think it's going to happen again? Yeah, it was 2 years too early by Mycal's timeline, but it was in alignment with where Mycal wanted to end up. Uh-huh. And so that gut feeling now is less of a surprise and more of a signal. When I feel that, I'm like, ooh, that's probably in alignment, mm-hmm. right? I can. The feedback loop is so much tighter. I can get to yes or no real quick, right? Mm-hmm. When I'm entertaining these things. And that has served, coming to that awareness, and I'm going to overuse that word in the course of this conversation, has served me so well. Is it in alignment? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. And it makes the no's like painfully obvious. And it makes the yeses, scary as they may be at the time, because, what you don't always have readily available in answering that question of alignment is like everything in between. Mm-hmm. The how, the who's, the what's, just like, oh yeah, that's a brick in this bridge. Mm-hmm. That, okay. I don't have the next one yet, but mm-hmm. it sounds good. It's enough to move that thing forward. Mm-hmm. And you have to trust it. And the more you trust it, and the more the pattern recognition you accumulate over time, it's like, okay, that's worth leaning into. That's worth sticking with it. Like, okay, we'll keep going. Mm-hmm. And you do that enough times, and all of a sudden you're sitting here, fuck, 13 years later.
13.
And you're being asked to teach this concept of next level leadership at the Thunderbird School of Global Management and Executive Education. You're impacting not only individual leaders but entire organizations with this school of thought. And it's all because, and if you had asked me upon reception of my DD-214 and putting Yuma in the rearview mirror if this is the stuff that we'd be doing, I couldn't see any of it. We're just gonna be counting reps and slinging barbells for the rest of our lives, baby. You know, that was the dream. You know, and but yeah, answering that question of alignment, man, is massive.
Well, it sounds like it's been super fulfilling for you in the way that you speak about it.
Yeah, it's been everything, and because of that, you know, like just celebrated 10 years with my wife. We got 2 beautiful kids, and we're doing this thing together. You know, and you know, I couldn't ask for more.
Sounds awesome, man. And if you don't mind, a quick, since you bring up your family and having 2 kids and everything. What do you find, especially in these days where, say, over time, culturally, the importance of family has been like pulled out? So what have you found important about having a family? And now that you have one and it's been years.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, man, like everything I just described to you means fuck all if things aren't right at home. And that's what I come back to. And I was actually just having this conversation with a client, you know, who's serving a really big mission. And, you know, I brought him back to ground. It's like, look, don't become a martyr for the cause at the expense of what's really important. You know, we see it in social media all the time, man. You know, these power couples, or the folks that present as such, you know, she puts him on a pedestal, you know, she shits roses, and, you know, all of a sudden they hit 1 million followers, and now they're getting divorced. Well, what is that? What happened? You know, and going back to this whole mentorship thing, my wife and I, we are always seeking mentors in every genre of life: relationship, finance, business, the folks that do it together. But in whichever silo you want to put them in, they exemplify where we want to be, right? And to that end, when we look at our mentors who are in business with their significant others and have done so successfully, one of the things that just really came to my mind on the opposite side of that social media dynamic is like, what conversations did you guys have when you had nothing and you were living on the dollar menu, trying to figure out, you know, you got more accounts receivable, and, you know, your cash flow is compromised, and you're in that season of building it and making it happen. What conversations were you having back then that allow you guys to thrive now that everything is good? You've weathered that storm, you've had your exit, business is growing, everything is happening, right? You don't just land there, you know, and at the same time, somewhere along the way, most fall apart. At least 50%, but last time I checked, right? Probably more than that if you're building a business together, right? You know, I'm sure at some point, one of you wanted to do something different with the money. One of you wanted to upgrade your lifestyle before the other one felt ready, or whatever. Like, what conversations were you guys having way back when that set you up for success now? And that has been such a powerful line of questioning that has served my wife and I so well. And what it really comes down to is what I just said at the very beginning in answer to that question. This empire means nothing if that falls apart along the way. Because really and truly, like, that's what it was all for. or you would like to think so anyway. You know, so I call them courageous conversations, and why they're courageous is because you need to have them when everything's going okay, not in reaction to the dumpster fire or the pandemic that shut down your business, the black swan event, right? You want to at least have some of these fundamental agreements in place for the hockey stick or the collapse, so that not everything goes to hell in a handbasket quick, fast, and in a hurry. And when you do that, when you're proactive in that pursuit, to the other person, it can really seem like you're pissing in their Cheerios. Like, everything's going so good. Why are you blindsiding me about like what we're gonna do with this money that we don't have yet? Or what do you mean? Like, kids are in diapers and we're talking about private versus public school? Like, what do you mean? Like, oh, so when we secure this contract, we're gonna let's just get the contract first, and then we'll talk about what we're gonna do with the money, right? That's the easy thing to do, right? Having that conversation early, like, for example, my wife and I, Michael's opinion. This is not dogma by any means. Live your own life, folks. To me, the whole point of getting married was to start a family. Okay? And my wife and I did the long distance thing when we were dating. She was living in Chicago, I was down here. And over the course of that time, one of the courageous conversations we had was, hey, look, when you say I do, like, are you on board with getting pregnant right away? Because I don't want to get married just to date longer. Just, you know, where are you at with that? And dude, that is a really weird and awkward conversation. Can be, right? But now we're on the same page, right? And where that comes from is, and you know this, like, we've watched a lot of our bros do it. They didn't have that conversation. Right? How many of our Marine buds are on their second, third, some fourth marriage?
A lot of them.
Right? Because they're not having these conversations. They're not setting the table so that expectations can be met. And that's what it's ultimately all about, is making sure that you understand what Mycal expects and Mycal understands what Craig expects. And if there's an impasse, then so be it. At least you got to the impasse when the stakes were low. You didn't have all your chips in the middle, and now we got to, like, figure out what goes where. You know what I mean? And I have found that to be extremely fruitful in my marriage, in the preservation and evolution of my family. But that same principle serves in business as well. Like, if it bothers you, say something. You know, it doesn't even have to bother you. If it concerns you, if you don't know, if there's ambiguity, get the question answered. You know, and one of my favorite people are like, well, fuck, how do you have that conversation? I still don't know how to have a conversation. To find the word for something like that is so, like, in your bones, can be really daunting and really challenging. So I do what I like to call set the table. And I just tell my wife, like, I don't have any other language for what I'm about to say. Just know that I'm approaching this conversation from a place of love and respect. And then I just, right? And we muddle through it together. She has a lot of questions like, where is this coming from? What exactly do you mean? Because it's not that I don't know what I mean. It's more so going back to word codes and language, right? I don't have the language to say this tactfully or kindly, or I don't know another way to say it that will get the desired point across, right? And at the same time, I don't want to be mean. And I'm also acknowledging this, it's potentially uncomfortable. right? And then we get through it, and agreements are made, expectations can be met, or compromises. You know, we're definitely not doing that. Like, okay, cool, I can live with that. But it was a concern of mine, and now it's out there on the table, and we're good. You know what I'm saying? And it actually propels your relationship forward, as opposed to like living in fear or creating this assumption that if I do say something, I'm gonna wake up alone in the morning. Right? If that's a thought in your mind, you're in the wrong fucking relationship anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah. So that's how I've learned, and how we practice to keep our family first. You know, my wife and I are in business together, and she has my express permission that if the vision gets too big, or the family becomes, the kids, me, her ability to be what she perceives to be a quality wife and mother, if this takes away from that, then we can pursue other options. You know, but we've had that conversation while everything's going good. You know, it's not like, oh, it's too much, she's ripping her hair out, you know, and things are falling apart in the business, and we're unhappy at home, and it's all just falling apart. That's not when you want to have those conversations. It's like, hey, let me know, you know, let's have that conversation, and then like let's do it productively, proactively, right? So that you know, the commander's intent is always met. You know what I'm saying? And like perfect example, man. We were coming up on the end of our first lease here, and one of those courageous conversations we had early on was, hey, I got 3.5 years left on this lease to take this thing as far as I can take it, and I need you on board with that mission. I don't know to what extent your exact role is in that. I don't have that picture painted yet. However, our relationship cannot be an excuse for why it didn't, or why it did or did not succeed. Are you good with that? She's like, yes, cool. And my promise to you is, at the end of that lease, if the cross is too much to bear, or you know, there's no end in sight, then I'll go get a big boy job, and know that I lived the dream, right? And things were okay when we had that conversation, and we got to the end of that lease. And I'm like, all right, babe, here we are. We made an agreement, right? What do you want to do? Dude, she looked me dead in my face like I'm looking at you right now. She was like, I can't imagine you doing anything else. Keep going.
Home run.
And bro, here we are. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't like that conversation in that moment wasn't a surprise. You know what I'm saying? And at the same time, with no proof yet of how big it could be, or where exactly we're going, because the scope of work that we do now didn't exist even then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But again, because we had that conversation, we front loaded these conversations as much as possible. When we, as we approach these lines of demarcation along the way, it's like, hey, when we got here, we said we'd do X. Are we still on course, or are we doing something else? Right? We have these built-in inflection points, you know, and that has served us really, really well, man. Yeah.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, you just might learn something more about compassionate communication from a Marine like Mycal right here. So pay attention.
Thanks, man. Yeah. So it's been a journey, man, but it starts with self. And you know what we teach our leaders is to make yourself a priority, so that you can create the bandwidth for introspection. Because we're so deep in we're the heroes of our own story. and you can't, from that perspective, it's really tough to see the production that's really going on around you. And if you're not able to break your own fourth wall from time to time and see the forest for the trees and give yourself a 30,000 foot view of what you got going on, it makes things way more challenging than they need to be. Yeah. So I don't even know if I answered your question at this point, dude.
Great morsels of wisdom here.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm even bouncing to like, oh, okay, cool, I could have this and that conversation. But it seems too, like in these, to your point about, sounds like your relationship with your wife has only deepened. You've only gained more of a trust throughout the years, more of a connection, because you have been willing at these points where it's like, hey, look, need to make sure you're on the same page. This is what we're looking at, for the future, and it's turned out.
Yeah, yeah. As we're shopping locations right now, and making sure that the team is up to speed with where we're at in the process, and we have. I'm a big fan of John Wick, so our Friday team meeting is called the High Table. Okay. And at our high table, a couple of weeks ago, I'm getting the pulse because I'm not around a lot right now because I'm out looking at stuff. And I want to make sure that the team knows that they're up to speed on what Mycal's doing. That's really important to me. So that whatever assumptions there are, they can be squashed with reality, right? And getting a pulse on the team, and Joanna's one of she's our empath, and I'm like, what questions do you have? What are your concerns? Let's get it all out on the table. And she looks over at Nicole and she's like, how are you doing with all of this, right? Because she's got the most to juggle of all of us, right? And he says, when you're married to a guy like Mycal, you have to trust the pattern, and whatever we're committed to, we're going to see through to the end. And it was like, okay, but the only way that she can make a statement like that as confidently as she said it is because we've had these courageous conversations along the way, and they've only served us. Even if the outcome was an outright failure, you know what I mean? Like we were on board with that roll of the dice. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, that's really the theme of a lot of conversations that I'm having right now, is being able to have these courageous conversations up front. And when you're talking about dating and relationships and family, and like how we're talking right now, this is how I talk to my kids. And my son is about to be 9, my daughter's about to be 7. But I'm like, at some point, your consciousness is going to catch up with your subconscious. I know that the words coming out of my mouth are way over your head right now. But energetically, I know that you understand. And I've had people like, dude, you talk to your son like he's a grown ass man. I'm like, eventually he will be. And if I wait until he is, for him to hear this shit for the first time, did I actually help him as a father? Ball's in your court, dude. This is how I'm raising my kids.
Well, and it seems too, because you model these things, and inevitably your 7 and 9-year-old children see the way that you speak to your wife and all that. It's like, it's all being absorbed.
100%.
Yeah.
We don't hide conflict from our kids. Everything. When we experience friction, it's always layered on top of love and respect. Even if an F-bomb or two are thrown. That doesn't stop the frustration from peaking or the kettle from boiling over. That none of this is a safeguard against our emotions. But upon that emotional release, like at some point you're in the driver's seat as to how long you remain in that state. You know, so yeah, let the pot boil over. Cool, say what needs to be said, and then we need to come back. My wife and I have a rule: we don't hang up the phone, and we don't go to bed without saying "I love you." You know, and I took that from my dad, because the last words I got to say to him before he died was "I love you." You never know when the last time is the last time, and I'm not leaving that to chance. And on the backside of any, you know, hard, courageous conversation, I'm not leaving that to chance. You know what I mean? And, you know, so for whatever that's worth, that served us really well.
Sounds amazing, dude. Yeah. I'm like taking notes. Like, okay, cool. I gotta talk to, you know, my future wife, you know, about some of these things. So,
yeah, man. So,
seems just like one of those things too that is a common theme, is that when you take the time and show the respect to let the other person understand what the expectations are, and then open up the floor so that they can be a participant.
Yes.
To say, is this a yes or no? You know, hot, cold, warm, whatever.
Right. Yeah, I want to make sure I clarify this. I don't want to make this seem as if this is a very one-directional, unilateral decision-making process. I expect this of her as well, you know, and so where my word code is, I don't have other language for this. She says, I just need a moment to express. That's her word code. And in that moment, I give her my undivided attention because I know what that means, you know? And regardless of what she actually expresses or how she expresses it, we're able to navigate that together. You know what I mean? But yeah, again, so like those expectations and having those courageous conversations up front are way more impactful than you could ever give them credit for. Yeah.
It seems too in there that it's like the patience, being able to sit in silence, being able to sit without responding, just like hear it, absorb it, understand it.
Oh yeah.
Man, how much better of a world would it be if people just listened?
Yeah.
I forget what the quote is, but it's something that, you know, we have a problem because people listen with the intent of responding rather than with the intent of understanding.
Right.
And it's like, man, they're two different roads.
Oh, totally. I mean, we had a conversation this morning, Nicole and I, and I said what I needed to say, and it wasn't about agreeing. You know what I mean? And her response was, I understand. And that's it. And she has, you know, in these courageous conversations, she has my permission, and my expectation is such that, dude, she tells me all kinds of shit I don't want to hear, you know? And not because she's being mean or trying to put me down or anything like that. She sees things that I don't. You know, I'm the visionary with my head in the fucking clouds all the time. You know, she's the integrator, and she brings everything to the ground. I'd be a moron to not take that counsel. You know what I'm saying? And there's just so many people that, because it's not what they want to hear, they just cast it by the wayside. And instead, I'm like, I don't, and you know, so every once in a while I'll tell her, you know, but energetically you can feel it too. It's like, I didn't want to hear that, but I needed to hear that. Thank you. You know, and like, bro, what a powerful act of humility when somebody tells you some shit that you don't want to hear, but you needed to hear it. And the only thing you respond with is thank you. That's a big fucking deal.
Humility.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, man. I hope that that nailed it for you, man.
This nails it, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm looking forward to next time already.
Yeah.
Because I know that's like there's so much more.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I'm for it, man. And we'll run this back because I want to definitely chat with you about your journey on Progress Always at some point.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
All right, Mycal.
Dude, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Grateful for you, brother.
You too.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks. That's it for this time.